This is my midterm project on Leonardo da Vinci. My index page to show you what every slide has on it. This is my background information on Leonardo da Vinci. Leonardo da Vinci was born on April 15, 1452, in Vinci, Italy. He was the embodiment of a Renaissance man. He was a possessor of a curious mind and keen intellect. Da Vinci studied the laws of science and nature, which influenced his work as a painter, sculptor, architect, inventor, military engineer, and draftsman. His ideas and work, which included Virgin of the Rocks, The Last Supper, Mona Lisa, and the Vesuvian Man, have influenced countless artists and made Da Vinci a leading light of the Italian Renaissance. And that is a picture of Leonardo da Vinci. The Mona Lisa. The Mona Lisa is quite possibly the most well-known piece of painted artwork in the entire world. It was painted between 1504 and 1519 and is a half-body commission for a woman named Lisa Guardini. Her husband, Francisco del Quincondo, requested the work by Da Vinci just after the turn of the century. It is perhaps the most studied piece of artwork ever known. The subject's facial expression has brought about a source of debate for centuries, as her face remains largely enigmatic in the portrait. Originally commissioned in Italy, it is now at home in the French Republic and hangs on display in the Louvre in Paris. Over the centuries, the famous painting has withstood attempts at vandalism. The first occurrence of vandalism was in 1956 when somebody threw acid at the bottom half, and this severely damaged the timeless masterpiece. That same year, another vandal threw a rock at the work, removing a chip of paint from near her elbow. It was later painted over, and afterwards the piece was put under bulletproof glass as a means of protection, and it has kept the painting from further attempts at vandalism and destruction. This painting has long been characterized in cartoons, has been replicated all over the world, and has been studied by scholars and art enthusiasts alike. The painting is the most widely recognized work of art in the entire world. The oil on the cottonwood panel commission of Francesco del Quinco's wife used with precise detail to give an unbelievable lifelike appearance to the painting's subject. This piece of Renaissance artwork completely changed the techniques and style of painting, and is revered around the world as the greatest masterpiece of all time. And that is a picture of the famous Mona Lisa. This is Virgin of the Rocks. In April of 1483, the Confraternity of the Immaculate Conception commissioned Leonardo to paint the Virgin of the Rocks as part of an altarpiece for its chapel in the Church of San Francisco Grande in Milan. The painting was done on a wooden panel which was meant to be placed within a larger sculpted altarpiece for the chapel. This painting is one of Leonardo's early masterpieces, and it shows his reliance on traditional Italian Renaissance pictorial devices, but also his movement beyond this tradition. If you want to see this painting today, you can do so by visiting the Louvre in Paris, France. Alternatively, you can see another version of the same painting in the National Gallery in London, which was likely a copy made by Leonardo in the mid-1490s. I provided 3 images to show how Leonardo painted this, so that should break down the painting for you. The Last Supper, and this is a picture of the Last Supper. The Last Supper by Leonardo da Vinci is one of the most famous works of art in the world. It is a large fresco-style painting on the wall of Santa Maria del Grazie in Milan, Italy. It is not a true fresco because it was painted on dry wall instead of wet plaster. Unfortunately, because of the medium used, the work began to deteriorate fairly soon after it was painted, and so over the years, numerous restoration attempts have been made to restore and preserve it. Although it took over 3 years to complete, Da Vinci did not actually work on it continuously. No one knows the exact date of commencement due to lost and unreliable record keeping. Da Vinci's Last Supper is depicted in his ritual meal as a religious ceremony. Christ is very much the focal point of the entire piece, and we have a sense of a symmetrical symmetry as he is flanked by his disciples. There are 13 people in all, including Christ, and we can see presumably the figure of Judas Iscariot to the right of Christ, as he was still present at the meal. Some have theorized that Mary Magdalene was sitting to the left of Christ in the painting, but that is a contradiction since there had to be 12 disciples and she was not one of them. It is interesting to note that with Christ as the centerpiece, how he is in fact well framed by the doorway. This provides contrast between his figure and the outside, as well as bringing out eye to the most important figure of the piece. His arms, head, and body form a triangle, as well as a space on the left-hand side between him and the figure to his left. The disciples are also nicely arranged into groups of 3 along the length of the table. One interesting fact is that there are lines of perspective that radiate from Christ's head, indicating that he is the focal point of the painting. These perspective lines blend in with the ceiling and walls. And the last piece of artwork that I did was the Vitruvian Man. Leonardo da Vinci drew the Vitruvian Man in approximately 1487 in one of his notebooks. This world-famous drawing is also known as the Canon of Properties or Proportions of Man. The Vitruvian Man blends art and science and showcases da Vinci's interest in proportion. It also provides an example of da Vinci's attempt to make connections between man and nature. The drawing currently resides in the Gallery dell'Accademia in Venice, Italy, and is rarely shown. Leonardo da Vinci had a great interest in science as well as art. While the concepts of human proportion had been studied for centuries, his drawing was unique due to some modifications he made based upon his own observations. Multiple examples of anatomical sketches exist and may have served as inspiration or source material for da Vinci. However, his primary inspiration came from the work of Vitruvius, a famous Roman architect. His background in geometry and anatomy gave da Vinci a unique ability to apply geometric principles to his artwork, and the Vitruvian Man provides an excellent example of his ability to blend science and art. And that is a picture of the Vitruvian Man that he drew in his notebook. Next, I did 5 fun facts about Leonardo da Vinci. I'm going to elaborate on each one. The first one, he was illegitimate. Da Vinci was born in 1452 near Vinci, in what is now the Italian region of Tuscany. By most accounts, his father was a notary and landlord named Messer Piero Frusamo di Antonio da Vinci. His mother, Caterina, is commonly believed to have been a local peasant. However, some experts believe that Caterina was actually a slave owned by Messer Piero. Da Vinci's parents never married each other. The young Da Vinci lived with his mother until he was 5 years old and later moved in the home of his father, who had married another woman. The second one, he was unschooled. Unlike other well-known Renaissance artists, Da Vinci never received any kind of formal education. He did, however, receive instruction at home in subjects such as reading, writing, and mathematics. The third one, many of his works are unfinished. Da Vinci was a notoriously slow painter, and many of his works were never finished. In addition to housing the famed and finished Mona Lisa, Louvre in Paris is home to the Virgin and Child with St. Anne, an unfinished painting depicting the Virgin Mary, an infant Jesus, and Mary's mother, St. Anne. Perhaps the most intriguing of Da Vinci's unfinished works is his painting, The Adoration of the Magi, which allegedly features a depiction of the young artist himself. The painting, left incomplete in 1481, has been held at the Uffizi Gallery in Florence, Italy, since 1670. In addition to these unfinished paintings, Da Vinci left behind many unfinished inventions. In fact, there's no evidence that any of the artist's inventions were ever built. Similarly, none of his writings were ever published during his lifetime. He was persecuted. When Da Vinci was 24 years old, he was arrested along with several male companions on charges of sodomy. When no witnesses came forward to testify against the artist and his friends, the charges were dropped. But Da Vinci's journals suggest that the allegations were somewhat devastating to a man who liked to keep his private life private. Da Vinci may also have been scared for his life. In 15th century Florence, sodomy was a crime punishable by death. Not long after his case was dismissed, the artist left Florence for Milan. And the last one, he had a militant side. After abandoning his partisans in Florence to start afresh in Milan, Da Vinci needed to drum up new business. His strategy was to ingratiate himself to Ludovico Sforza, the Duke of Milan. in all of the information that I just shared with you. And that is my midterm project on Leonardo da Vinci. Thank you.